In this video, we're going to show you the key workflow step when it comes to creating content using patterns and structures. Remember in the first video about why SEO mattered before Google and matters now, and the case study we showed you with the upward trend in search performance? It was all based around patterns and structures. It started with patterns, but structures was a turning point, and we're going to show you that. In previous videos, we've showed you how to not be overwhelmed and stay focused on the core fundamentals and the habits to build when it comes to creating structure. In today's video, we're going to show you how we used the premium tool Frase to make that happen. Now, there should be a caveat here. We're only focusing on this particular part of the content creation process. What we should point out is that it's part of a bigger picture. For example, keyword research or existing Google Search Console performance. In other words, before we even get to creating content, we've done research that says what type of content should we be creating, or what content have we already created that we could get better. And then we would take the research around that and feed it into a content outline brief and reach this point where we develop the structure. Okay. You can see here we've got how to bake a sourdough loaf. That will be the example we are going to continue to use. Let me take you back to the history, because we have always used content outline briefs for ourselves and our clients. And I want to show you what it looked like before. Now, these are very comprehensive documents, and I'm not going to bore you with the whole outline, but a lot of work goes into it to make sure that the content can be organized so that anyone picking up one of our content outline brief has everything they need. Now, you'll see here it says number 2 of 2 because there's a second part. The first part is a strategy where we go into the purpose, intent, metadata, titles, descriptions, everything that doesn't actually go into the content, but the reasons why that content should exist. The purpose of this video is not about that. So we're just going to stick with the content outline brief. This version here, this is a template version, and how that would show up when we prepared it for ourselves or a client, it would look something like this. The client was given recommendations on how to start their content, the main body, and finish with a conclusion. Then we've given some link building, suggestions of what they should link to internally or externally. But the main thing was the client was getting this table here, keyword table, where they had all the topics and the long tail keywords and the terms they should use in headers. And then they would get some sample headers from the top 10 search results. They get some sample questions. If appropriate, they get some sample statistics. And then the client writing team could take that, run with it, and use their own authentic voice to create the content as they see fit. And that was the artistic side with a bit of our science in the background. What happened was, this worked well for a while, but if we go back to that first video where we showed you how the structures improved the content that wasn't ranking at all, here's the key difference. This part was added: content structure, recommendations and suggestions, revised content outline structure. It didn't matter whether it was a new piece or whether it was an existing piece that was going to be updated. What started to happen is we started putting in the heading recommendations. So the client would get the recommendation of top topics, long tail keywords, and what to use in headers, sample questions, sample statistics, etc. That all stayed the same. Let's see how that looks in an example. So now a content outline brief would look very similar, but when it came to the main body, we built the outline with the appropriate header 1, a number of header 2, and related header 3s. This is a fairly typical outline: a single header 1, a series of header 2s, and appropriate header 3s that would hang off of it. And as you can see here, all leading up to a conclusion, followed by the top topics, long tail keywords, and what to use in headers. And then the client could weave all of this into this structure. But the feedback we got was this was a game changer for clients. As much as they liked writing in their own authentic voice, when we gave them the structure based on the search results, it really speeded up how well they could write the content. So they could still do it in their voice, but they were guided all the way along. And again, this is another example of this balance between art and science. We wanted clients to bring their artistic side, their authoritative side, their creative side, but we wanted to make sure that their work, their investment in their asset, that paid off. And this is where the structure kicked in. Let's take that into how to bake a sourdough loaf and show you how we could do it. There are a number of ways this could be done. What we're going to do is show you a couple of those using Frase and show you the one that we primarily settle on. Yes, it takes a bit more work, but we found it's the one that seems to pay off the best. Here's a blank document for how to make a sourdough loaf. We could press generate a content brief and AI would do all the work. We never do that because it doesn't fulfill the criteria for what we go through to make content rank. But if you were just looking for a quick way to do it, you could generate a content outline brief by one click. In our last video, we showed you that we could put in the search term how to make a sourdough loaf and the search results would come up. Here you can see we've got the sourdough bread beginner's guide by the Clever Carrot. Number 2 was the homemade sourdough bread step by step by Alexandra's Kitchen. And number 3 was beginner's sourdough bread from the Perfect Loaf. And you can see all the headings and the outlines. There's up to 18 results here, so we could go through them all and we could literally copy these. So if we hover over one, we could just copy that in. But we don't find that's the best way to do it, but we could do it like that. So we go to outline. We could click on generate headings with AI, and that's another way to do it really quickly. Again, we've tried it, but the longer we work with content, we've found that explore headings is the best way. Because what happens here is we get a nice visual of how it's structured post by post. In this view, you can see sourdough bread by the Clever Carrot, a step-by-step by Alexandra's Kitchen, and the beginner's guide by the Perfect Loaf. Down here, you can see all the headings from the top 20. What we found is one of the best ways to do this is to start with the best performing content, pick a header one, pick another header one, pick another header one, and then use that to come up with our own header one. You can see here, this one uses a header 3 structure, but we love this format. Header 1 followed by header 2, followed by header 3s. What we would do is look through, scroll through those. Then we go with something like this. We like, what is sourdough bread? What equipment do I need? A 5-step overview. And then we've got these other things. So let's scroll across to number 3, the one by the Perfect Loaf. What is sourdough bread? Creating a sourdough starter. Keep an eye on that. Baker's terminology, table of contents. What is sourdough bread? Sourdough health benefits. That could be quite good. Common sourdough terms, so maybe that could mix up with the baker's terms, so let's put that in. Tips, how to make beginner's sourdough bread, step-by-step instructions, best tips for scoring, baker's timeline, no need sourdough bread. FAQs, always a good one to have in. More sourdough recipes, yeah, that could be a good one to include at the end. And let's go across to the next one. Best sourdough recipe, homemade bread is easier than you think. Recommended equipment, instructions. This one's number 6. I know that was number 5. Beginner's guide. So what we're doing here, we're looking for other headers that we haven't already perhaps seen, that we know could be quite useful, or the fact that they feature. We're not trying to make this perfect right now. Tips for success, baking schedule, easy sourdough bread recipes, sourdough baking resources. What is sourdough bread? When is my starter ready to use? Ingredients needed. Number 7, benefits of baking in a sourdough loaf pan. Shaping technique isn't as important. Bake sourdough at lower temperatures. Let's go across to number 9. Okay, so we've added the big picture process. Now, as I say, you could keep going across and pick them all up. It would really depend on what you see in the search results on how important it is to keep going after everything. But the point is now, you have a bunch of headings. Now, you'll probably realize some of them are repetitive. Well, what we would be looking to do here, we'd go, right, how to make a sourdough loaf is our starting point. But looking at the competition, sourdough bread, a beginner's guide, the Clever Carrot, we're not interested in that. And this one here, does it include homemade sourdough step by step. You've got the beginner's bread. This one's got the perfect loaf. You see here we are taking out irrelevant things. We've got sourdough, a beginner's guide, homemade sourdough bread, step by step beginner's guide. So now we are combining headers that are performing well as a header 1. We're going to go with this one and then ditch that. Now, what we're going to do now, and I'll pause this video while I do it, because we're just literally going to look through this and come up with a structure that matches the type of intent that we want to write to make sure that this particular content piece has all the right patterns of content and the right structure that's going to give it its best chance of ranking in the search results. Let me pause while I tidy up the header 2s and header 3s. I'll come back to you when we have a nice outline. Okay, we are back. What you can see now is 27 headings where we have put together that hierarchical structure, working from homemade sourdough bread, a step-by-step beginner's guide, and things we'd expect to see logically underneath that. Now, something I didn't mention earlier, but I wanted to point out is we're not chefs or experts in the kitchen or experts around sourdough. But with this process, you don't need to be to create this structure. By looking through the search results, you can look for patterns in the types of terminology, the types of questions, the way content has been organized, and then through the logical process, so this is the science at play, you can replicate that with your own outline, knowing that you have covered all the core bases. So whoever's going to write this piece of content from this outline has got the core patterns and the core structure that is going to make this piece of content be able to compete with everything here. Now, as to whether it will compete, lots of other factors come into play, and that's not the purpose of this video. But as we showed you back with the Parenting and Passports blog, this structure, even on a small blog with a low domain rating, can penetrate the search results and stay there. So just to let you know how we would finish that off, you can see here, I've organized it logically based on the pattern of these search results. But then the next step is simply, you can paste this, close this view, and now our outline is pretty much all there, ready to go. If you're an expert on sourdough bread, I may have some things wrong, but you can pretty much predominantly say that 80% will be what you need, and whoever's going to write this content, who is the expert, will be able to fine-tune it, reorder things, but they've got 80% of the work done. They can now write to a map and will be well on the way to having a solid piece of content that is going to work in the search rankings. This is part of a much wider process in terms of the keyword research that has to go in before you get to this stage. Then you're going to write that content. Whether you put this outline to an AI tool and let it try and write the whole thing, you're still going to have to come back and make it better with human input, or you hand this over to an expert in this area. Here's your outline, go for it. We take our content outline briefs a whole step further with the strategy document, so that the writer and the publishing team will have everything they need to make the content both look good and perform well in the eyes of the search engines. The final part, which we're not going to cover in this part, is that you would optimize it where all these key terms will come together. The fact that they are grayed out at the moment shows that they're not currently featured. But what would happen, the expert in this field, they would know where these words need to be fitted in to which part of the structure, and then the article would start to take shape and get a score of how well this piece of content is ranking against its competitors. But that's a video for another day. You now have everything you need, whether you use free resources or premium resources, to make a solid content piece that can be an asset to your business, start getting a return on investment because it can showcase your expertise, authority, trustworthiness, your experience, and it will look good to readers and search engines. SEO, art and science, all at play. Best wishes on your next content piece. Remember those core fundamentals and make it happen. See you in the next video.